Hey Wanderers, how's it going? Editing Katrina here. So apparently our intro from this episode was lost somehow, so I'm just gonna make one up right now. So the first half of this episode is gonna be about the knot deer, which is kind of like a cryptid, kind of like a legend kind of a thing. In the second half, we're gonna talk about some crystal skulls. So stay tuned for that. Again, please don't forget to check out our Instagram at Foolish Wanderers Podcast. If you want to check out our YouTube, Foolish Wanderers Podcast, we upload all of our episodes onto YouTube as well. Please, if you have any suggestions or comments or anything you want to talk to us about, please send us an email at fwplisteners@gmail.com. And we want to give a big thank you to, first of all, everyone who's been listening to us from the very beginning, and a big thank you as well to all the new people that have somehow stumbled across our little podcast. So thank you for all your support and love, and talk to you later.
Welcome to the Foolish Wanderers Podcast.
Why must I be surrounded by fools?
Welcome, Wanderer.
Alright, so let's get into the mystery of the knot deer. Have you ever heard of this, besides me just briefly mentioning it to you?
No.
No. Okay. Well, apparently, recently, within the last few years, I guess, there's been more and more sightings and people telling their stories. I think a huge spot for it is on Reddit, so I don't know how.
What is it? It has its own Reddit page, the Not Deer?
It's not like its own, it's like
Is it on a Cryptid
people.
Reddit page?
No, it's like people telling stories, like in a thread, like multiple threads of the not deer. I did find a bunch of stories. There's Not Deer magazine, and then I looked
They have a publishing?
someone does, yeah. The one I used the most was phantomsandmonsters.com. They have a lot of really good stories and stuff on there.
Phantomsandmonsters.com. Okay.
Yeah, so at the end of my presentation, at the end of this, I'll have a few stories I can read off, just kind of as accounts of it. So, what does a knot deer look like? Basically,
That's the dumbest. That sounds like a question they ask you, at Philosophy 101 or something in college.
What does a knot chair look like?
Yeah, what does a knot chair look like? You're like, what? What does that mean?
Yeah, so a knot deer looks incredibly similar to a normal deer.
Oh, but it is not a deer.
It's not a deer. Yeah, it's just slightly
deer.
off that it's not a deer. That's how it got its name. So that is what a knot deer is. Yeah, so basically, if you're driving by a cornfield or something, or a random forest, and you see a deer, and if you stare at it just long enough and see something just slightly off, yeah, that's
But
potentially a
what's
knot
off
deer.
about it?
Well, here's some of the biggest physical attributes to spot. They say that they have backwards joints. So
Ew. Nope. Don't like that.
Yeah, so their legs are pointed different directions than they're supposed to.
That's some Twilight Zone stuff. I don't like that.
Yeah. They have too wide of mouth. So
Wait, what?
yeah, so you know how a deer, its little nose are cute and they have a cute little mouth just for eating
Grass.
plants and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently the knot deer's mouth stretches to basically beneath its eyes to look like a wolf's mouth.
Ew.
Yes. And then apparently some of them also have wolf-like teeth, so not the normal molars, it's sharp teeth. And then some people say that they have multiple eyes, so not just two, they have 3 or 4.
As a third eye.
Yeah. It's enlightened. It has a third eye.
It's enlightened. Yeah, this is the philosophy class. What does a knot deer look like?
Well, it has a third eye. There you go. And then they say some of the harder attributes to spot if you're not just driving by, if you actually sit there and watch it for a while. They say that they have two forward facing eyes. So a normal prey animal like a deer or a rabbit, they have eyes on the sides of their heads, so they see more peripheral, so they can see predators. But the knot deer, their eyes are more forward, so they're technically predator eyes.
Predators.
Yeah. And then it says that sometimes they have too big of ears and different
What does that mean? Too big of ears?
Well, so what I've read too is some people, if you're a deer hunter, you get used to how a deer looks, and their ears are a certain size
But
statistically.
couldn't a deer, it's like Rudolph, with his nose so bright, with his red nose, couldn't he still be a reindeer, but his nose is still red, right? Isn't that the moral of the story? He's still a reindeer?
He's a not reindeer.
Dun, 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 dun. That would be so creepy as like a
Yeah.
horror movie, like Rudolph's the not deer, and he's got like
Ooh.
the bent, messed up looking joints with the with the wolf mouth with the teeth, and
We claim the rights to this horror
we
movie.
yes we do. Rudolph the not deer reindeer.
Dun dun.
Teddy
Does he come and visit you every Christmas? No. Nightmares for
your
children.
children right up.
Oh.
I'm not a songwriter. There's definitely a song in there, but I don't
Oh
have it
yeah.
right now. I
That's
don't have a
okay.
song in me right now.
That's okay. We'll get it figured out by the time the movie premieres.
Hmm.
We got it. Alright.
Okay, back to the not deer before I get too into like planning out this Rudolph the not deer reindeer horror movie.
Alright.
Coming
So
to a theater near you in 2066.
oh
I wanted to add like 666, but I'm like, I'm not gonna live
no.
that long.
Just
So
freeze you like
Walt Disney.
yeah. Yeah.
Brought to you
Picture
by
that.
Walt Disney's head. Rudolph
That
the
is a
not
horror
deer
film.
reindeer.
Oh man, that's a horror that's a horror studio basically made by Walt Disney's head. It's like Warner Brothers, but Disney's head. Anyways,
Anyways.
all right. So some of the other behavior differences. So like deer usually are pretty afraid of people. Like they won't stick around too long after you like see them, like make eye contact with them. They usually get scared and run away.
Mhm.
But these deer often make direct eye contact with you and do not get afraid and sometimes come closer to you. Which some deer, like if they're like a domesticated deer, like they're gonna be used to people. But like if it's just a normal deer,
Domesticated deer.
they exist. People have pet deer.
I know.
And they also say that they can click, like make clicking noises.
What? They can what?
They click, you go,
Clicking deer?
click, they click. Yeah.
With
And then
what? Their mouth?
I think so. What else are they gonna click with? Their fingers?
They have like, the hooves.
Oops. I don't know. I haven't seen one. I don't want to see one. And then the last thing, the creepiest thing probably, is that they move with slight jerking motions.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Yeah, so it's like they don't move quite right, and they move
they got
very.
bent- Oh, that see the jerking motions mixed in with those bent like joints
Yeah.
with the bent back wrong legs. That's nope. That's Icktown, USA for me. Nope. Nope.
Yeah,
Nope. Nope.
yeah. No, there's like
So they're moving like a chicken, like with the weird.
pretty much. Yeah, they move like jerkily and not. Yeah, like a chicken. Yep.
Oh God. Okay. These things have a very lame name for how like disgusting and just vile they are.
What else do you want to call them?
Disgusting vile deer. I don't know. Disgusting vile demon deer.
Make up a snazzier name. We'll stick with it.
Satan's sleigh is pulled by these disgusting demon
Aw.
deer because Satan's deer.
Okay, there you go. Zombie deer.
Demonic deer. DD. Double D's. Demonic deer.
There you go. All right. So in one video I watched, there's a lady that she compared. She kind of explained this phenomenon in like the way of the uncanny valley. Basically, like if you're like a hunter and or like work with deer all the time, you get so used to looking at normal deer, and you get so used to it and so familiar with them that as soon as you see something that's just a little bit off, like something's just slightly not right with it, you get freaked out.
Wait, so that's like a phenomenon thing?
Yeah, so here's
The
the
uncanny
definition.
valley. Okay.
Uncanny. Yep, here's the actual definition. The uncanny valley is a term used to describe the relationship between the human-like appearance of a robotic object and the emotional response it evokes. In this phenomenon, people feel a sense of unease or even revulsion in response to humanoid robots that are highly realistic.
Oh, so
So
that's Sophia the robot.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one freaks me
Okay.
out. But that's why.
Or that who is it? The comedian lady, Whitney Cummings. She did a special, like a comedy special, where she paid a bunch of money for this robot of herself to be made. And I think she
Oh.
named it Bear Claw.
Oh.
And it like was dressed like her, and it came out, and but it was really creepy. It was really icky.
Yeah, it sounds creepy.
But I mean, I know what you're saying, because if you look at like a CGI, like the best way to describe it, other than like robots, I would say, would be
Mhm.
like a CGI person.
Yeah, where it's just like just barely, like there's not quite enough detail, or it's like
Mhm.
just off, where it's like don't
You're
like
like
that.
you're like, "That doesn't look real to me." Like, that's not a real person. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
pretty
you're
much.
saying is like the uncanny valley phenomenon. It's like the hunter's got like he's got like a scope. I
Mhm.
mean, I've never hunted. I don't know if he's a scope. You probably do, right? They use
I
like
wouldn't know.
they have they're using their scope. They're like lining up. They see something, and they're like, not a deer.
Yeah, it's like there's just something weird, and it's like,
It's
what
off.
is that?
So
Yeah.
they don't shoot it. Okay.
Which is like that would be even more terrifying. You're alone at your deer stand and you're ready to like you found this buck and you're like, oh yeah, this is a nice like 10-point buck or whatever. And then you look at your scope, or you look at it moves funny, or like its eyes are weird, and you're like, ah
Something's
shit.
off. You're like,
Something's
what's
not
off with
right.
this? And it
Yeah.
clicks.
Yeah, and it clicks at stares at you in your deer stand, even though you're
Clicks.
camouflaged, and like, oh no.
It clicks and it makes a
No
weird like yeah.
thanks. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So one of the explanations that possibly could be is a disease known as CWD, otherwise known as chronic wasting disease, otherwise known as zombie
Oh.
deer disease.
So does so it zombie deer disease.
Yeah, I heard about this a couple years ago, and apparently, I think it was down south, like in Texas or something. Someone had like a deer cam up, and this deer was very not right. And he was like walking on
Ew.
its hind legs, and it
Oh
was like
god.
twitching, and yeah. But this is what CWD affects. So it's a fatal, contagious neurological disease that affects deer, elk, and moose. It's often found in areas of North America, including Canada and the US, Norway, and South Korea. Basically, it causes degeneration of the brain that causes abnormal behavior, which like loss of bodily functions, causes them to drool excessively, and then they have no fear of people or death. And then they die.
Is it just like sort of like rabies or something?
Does rabies like deteriorate? Like it basically turns your brain into a sponge. That's what this disease does.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's yeah, it's pretty
And
messed up.
this is real, right?
This is real. Yeah, this has been proven. Yeah.
There's chronic wasting disease is real. Oh my gosh.
Yep. And it's said to be caused by a misformation of proteins called prions, where basically they just don't form right,
Oh,
and then
I've
it like.
heard of prions before. Okay.
Good
Yeah,
job.
look at me just like I've heard of deer before. What? I feel so dumb. I'm sorry, people. I have an art degree.
I didn't know any of this till I looked this up, but it makes sense. Like at least
That makes sense.
for like the jerky movements and stuff,
Mhm.
which like for behavioral stuff like that makes sense, but for like the backwards joints and the eyes different, that doesn't make sense to me. So
Maybe it was like a deer that got hit by a car and it was kind of just like I healed myself. Wrong. I'm not a
very wrong.
doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm a deer.
He just goes to a little tree, and his little doctor deer walks up. He's like, "Well, you need stitches, and you
It
need
was a squirrel.
to."
He's like, what are you looking at? What? My legs are on backwards. What are you talking about? Like, damn it. The squirrel doctor I went to said he could do it right. I'm gonna sue him.
Oh no!
I know a fantastic beaver lawyer.
Ooh, beaver lures. Alright. So yeah, so not deer are found most commonly in the foothills of Virginia, and also found in southern parts.
They're just in Virginia.
Well, they've been reports from around the U.S. At least
Okay.
the stories that I have. They're found in southern parts of America, often like found around the Appalachian Mountains. Appalachian Mountains.
I say Appalachian. I know they say
Appalachian.
I know people from the Appalachian Mountains say Appalachian, but
Okay.
we'll just say those mountains.
In their mountains, yeah. So
Mhm.
I'm found the Appalachian Mountains. They're spotted usually in early mornings and late evenings, so like dusky times, like when visibility is low.
Isn't that just perfect?
It's perfect for this creepy creature, yeah. However, they've been rarely seen, but have been seen during midday, so it's
Isn't that
possible.
just perfect?
So any type of day, and then they're often found in forests and have
Isn't
been.
that just perfect? No, I'm joking. Where else would they be, like, in a Kmart parking lot? You're like, "Oh."
Well, it says that they have been seen near roads and by people's houses too. So I mean, a Kmart
I
parking
mean,
lot wouldn't be far off.
yeah.
So then I did see there's a girl by the name of Abigail Sabota. She grew up in Appalachia, and this is her advice for if you see something in the woods. She says, "Don't go out at night. However, if you do not look into the woods.
Wait, what?
Do not look into the woods, and you did not see anything in the woods. You did not. Even if you think, nope, you did not see anything. And then do not acknowledge them. Look away. Walk away. If you hear someone call your name or hear screaming, no, you don't. Look away, walk away. If you hear footsteps, turn away, look away, and walk away. So if that's not enough to send shivers down your spine, I don't know what
Wait,
is.
what? This is advice from her?
This is advice. Yeah, I saw a video on TikTok a while ago that was, I don't remember if it was her, if it was another girl, but she told a story about being followed by a creature that did not sound human. It was like that weird uncanny valley thing where it's like, it sounds human, but like if you look at it, if you listen to it, she's like, it sounded robotic. So it was like a weird metally tinge to it. And she said this advice. So it's like,
Oh, so
so
this is her advice. Okay.
yeah, so nope, you didn't hear that. Just walk
How about,
away.
what about run? What about run, people? What happened to run away?
I think in that video, if I remember correctly, she said don't run unless it's like right there because otherwise it
What?
feels like it can chase you. It's like a dog that would like try to chase you. So I don't know. It's up to you. Run if you want. Otherwise, just stare straight ahead.
I'm booking it.
Some people do. It's just fun. So there's also another legend called the Deer Man.
See, this is a better name.
Better, yeah, a little bit, yeah, a little bit more refined.
This is like a horrible, like, comic book character. Dear man,
A Deer Man.
his greatest foe is a car in the middle of the night.
No, it's the headlights.
It's the headlights.
It's just the headlights.
Yeah, it's headlights. It's better. Dear man.
Deer Man. So they say that deer man have heads and lower halves of deer, but a torso and arms of a human male.
Ew.
Yeah, and it walks around.
Does it wear clothes?
No, it's a deer.
But he's still a man. He's still a deer man. So
Man.
the man part should be wearing clothes. No?
I haven't heard any reports about clothing on deer, so
Dear man.
deer man. You can go ask him next time you see him. I don't
Like-
dare to ask.
Ugh, gross.
Yep. They said that they see him walking around on hind legs.
See, if you're okay, this is my thing, everybody. If you're walking on hind legs, you better be wearing pants.
But he has fur. It's fine. Just kidding. No, maybe not. Not fur.
No, because Donald Duck and Winnie the Pooh are sickos. They're sick, disgusting pigs. They have enough. They have enough like shame to wear clothes, but they wear it on the wrong parts of their body.
Fair enough. Yeah, like Mickey
So-
Mouse wears it on the bottom,
Uh-huh.
and then
Yeah, I know. So he's fine. And
Fair
then Minnie Mouse wears a dress, and then Goofy, he wears a
He wears
complete
full
outfit.
clothes.
Yeah, he wears
Yeah.
full clothes. Goofy's the smartest one out of them all. He has the most shame and understands how society works, or Western society. But Pooh Bear and Donald Duck are sickos.
all right, moving on. So the deer man has been seen in Ohio, Delaware, and in the Appalachian mountain areas. So again, Appalachia.
Appalachian.
Okay.
Appalachian. No,
Appalachia?
I don't know.
Okay.
Either or.
So now I have a few stories from phantomsandmonsters.com. These are a few stories from their website about the not deer and the deer man.
I'm the deer man.
The deer man. He's got to be in that horror movie along with
He's the hero.
Rudolph. He's a hero in the Rudolph horror movie?
Yeah. No. They have
No.
to. No. I want a
No.
completely different universes. I take it back. I take it
Okay.
all back. Anyway,
Yeah.
back to the stories.
Okay. I'm in northwest Georgia, living in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, halfway between Chattanooga and Atlanta. Sometimes my family takes trips to the mountains. One day up there, my cousin and I wanted to go cruising around just to take in the views. It was getting late, around 8 p.m., so we started to head back. Well, close back to our cabin, we see a deer on the side of the road, so we slow down. Then as we get close, it walks into the road, pretty close to being dead in front of us. I hit the brakes, and then it stands up, starts walking around on its back legs. We're freaking out because that's crazy, obviously.
Ugh. The
We've
dang squirrel doctor put it on wrong.
We've been out in nature with animals our whole lives. I grew up being a minute away from the Pine Mountains, living out on the lake, but I've never seen anything like it. It just looked so wrong. Its joints didn't move right, and it had arms, not front legs, on the upper half, like a human, excluding the head. We gassed it around those mountain curves and just kept going. We didn't even wait to stop at the cabin because he didn't want it to stop moving. JB. So that's a deer man sighting.
That's Deer Man. Okay.
Dear man. Yes. It's also sophisticated. He needs a little coat. He needs a little top hat and a coat.
How
And a
does it?
monocle.
And a monocle.
Alright. So this next one is by CL. Last year, about late August/September, I was biking home from work. I worked second shift from noon to midnight. I live about 5 miles from work and had driver's license suspended for 3 months. So I would bike to from work daily. One night, while rounding a corner, I saw 3 pair of glowing eyes. They were glowing because of the reflection of my headlight on my bicycle. They looked like deer, but their necks were awkward and long, and at the angle by they were standing, it appeared that their necks went straight down into their legs. They almost looked like bipedal creatures just staring
Oh.
at me. They did not run or seem to fear me. I had an uneasy feeling the entire ride home. They had the head of a deer but were directly facing me the entire time, as just staring as I passed. I'll never forget how strange that was or how strange they looked. I'm 34 years old. I've been around deer my entire life and a woodsman, a hunter, outdoor enthusiast. I've never experienced behavior like that or even seen a deer with that long of a neck in my life. This is between the towns of Maple Plain and Loretto, Minnesota. Great.
It was in Minnesota.
Yep. I've never heard of a not deer until tonight. I know now what I saw was not normal. I thought the whole time I was crazy. CL. That doesn't make me feel comfy at all. It's very close to us. I guess I don't know where those 2 towns are, but Minnesota's a little too
That's
close to home.
by. So he said Loretto, right? Loretto,
Yep.
Minnesota. So that's sort of by like Medina, which is
Only the cities.
by Plymouth, like outskirts, suburb of Plymouth, Minnesota, which is Minneapolis. So the cities, Twin Cities. So
Still too close to home.
Yep.
All right. So the last one that I have is by JS.
Is this
Outside-
Deer Man or is this the not deer?
I think this is a not deer. Remember correctly. All right. So outside city limits on the county near Old Lynchburg Road, before all those student apartments were completed. I think I can miss part.
Thanks. Very familiar with that area.
Yep.
Before those pesky student housing was completed.
Fun.
All right. Sorry.
You're good. At the time, I lived in Fry Springs on Sunset and in a townhouse. My roommate was using my vehicle, and I was at my friend's house on the county's house.
Isn't that the
Country.
prison?
Maybe it's supposed to be country. Friend in the
Oh.
country's house. That makes more sense. So my roommate was using my vehicle, and I was at my friend in the country's house. So his friend lived in the country, I believe. That's what he's saying.
That's
So-
what I mean.
I hope. Yeah. So, hopefully. All right. So I decided to walk to the corner store to get some smokes. If you know the trail in the backyard, it's a beautiful walk and a little quicker than driving around the windy
He
roads.
keeps the story is going to be like, where the student housing used to be.
It's
The
supposed-
backyard with the beautiful trail. Like, I don't know. I've never been there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Continue.
It wasn't dark yet, but the sun was going down and it was cooling off into a beautiful evening. So I asked my friend Jay if they want anything and head off to the trail that brings you out behind the county store.
Yeah, that one.
At first, my walk down the trail was just like any other. There were birds chirping, animal noises, a nice breeze. When I got to the split in the trail, for some reason, I began to feel really uneasy. My hair was standing on end. I felt like I was being watched.
Oh,
I felt-
God.
and I felt that heavy feeling in my stomach, but I walked this trail many times, and it wasn't that much further. That's when I started to hear crunching leaves and snapping twigs near me. I quickly scanned the area and was relieved when I spotted a large buck standing off the trail, partly behind the sycamore tree. First thing that struck me was that the rack on this deer, the antlers were super thick and burly, more like a moose antlers. But they weren't
Oh.
quite moose antlers. It just looked off. I decided to keep walking and noticed that when I was walking, so did the deer. So I walked a little faster, and so did the deer.
Run, bitch, run.
I stopped and this deer took off in full-blown sprint. Something about the way this thing moved was just so unnatural. It moved almost like a rocking horse with its hind legs were in reverse of how they were supposed to be. So that
Oh
squirrel
my-
put his legs all
that's how they
backwards.
move?
That
Yeah.
dang squirrel doctor.
Dang, squirrel doctor. I'm like, hey, where you going, kid? I want to go to the corner store, too.
You buy me some chips? I'm
I need
craving
some
a chocolate bar.
I need some Tylenol for my legs because the dang squirrel doctor put them on backwards, you see?
No. It was very unsettling and prompted me to bust out in a full-blown run into the end of the trail. There you go. So I'm hauling ass down this trail, being fueled by some sort of primal fear. I come around the bend, and there in the middle of the trail is a not deer. I started trying to backpedal and fell straight on my butt. I'm just looking at this thing and it hits me. This thing is a predator. It's got front-facing eyes. Deer don't have front-facing eyes, but that's not all that's wrong with it. Its face is not right. It's too round, and it has huge jowls. The mouth is too rounded to be a deer. The snout is far too short, and it's just all wrong. I scrambled to get to my feet, but whatever this thing was decided to stand on its hind legs when I stood up. I don't know if it thought I was challenging it too, because it stood up on its hind legs and it was huge. It towered over me, and it was about 8 feet tall. I turned around and started running as fast as I could, but I could hear the sounds of a bipedal stride close behind me and never turned around.
Everybody knows what that sounds like, a bipedal stride.
Well, it's like a person running at you. I think it's a person running. You can kind of tell.
Oh.
It's not like 4 things.
I thought that
It's like dun, 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 not dun, 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 like a horse. Right? It's like a person versus a horse. Sounds like a person.
Gotcha. So it's running on its hind legs after him?
Yeah.
What? Remember, I have an art degree, so bipedal stride. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
That's okay.
Two legs,
Two.
right?
2 legs. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're bipedal creatures.
Yeah,
2 legs.
bicycle. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. I never turned around. I was sure that if I turned around, it would get me. When I reached the fork in the trail, I could no longer hear it behind me. When I got out of the woods, I started screaming like a maniac, so much that my friend Jay came out the back door with a shotgun. Should I mention that my friend Jay is a backwoods mountain boy from Cripple Creek? When I finally calmed down enough to explain what happened, Jay told me that it wasn't a deer. He said that in the woods, there are a lot of things that regular people don't know about, and what I encountered was one of those other things. He said that it was up to something, and I disturbed it. The gist of what I got is that some sort of manifestation of a forest spirit. JS. So what did you think?
I mean, I've never seen one, but I mean, I've definitely been driving at night or been alone in the woods, and you're kind of afraid because you're alone in the woods or driving at night.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's already like a creepy spot to be, and then yeah,
you're
so then-
tired while you're driving, you think you see things, or you're walking alone at night. And I mean, I do it in my house. I'll be like, oh, it's a serial killer. I'm like, oh, wait, no, it's just a.
oh, like the
nothing.
little bumps and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I do that too. Yeah.
Mhm.
This is another reason why I'm afraid to look outside at night. I hate it. I can't look outside in the
I'm
darkness.
cool with it. I want to see it. I would see a not deer.
I wouldn't. I'm not up for it. Nope. I'm good. There's a lot of really creepy stuff that I think there's a lot around Appalachia. There's something with those mountains that
Old.
set stuff up.
Old mountains.
Yeah. Well, yeah, every mountain's old, but
I think I'm probably talking to my ass, but
Mhm.
I think the Appalachian Mountains are technically, I want to say, older because they're so like beaten down. They're not like growing upwards anymore. They're just
Okay.
sort of, I don't know how to say, like crumbling. Like they're older. I don't know if that's true or not.
I've never heard of that, but there's more, I think, like history in them than like the rest of the west of the America. It's so that's why part of it, but
I'll find proof. I don't sound dumb.
you're gonna Google it.
Here we go. Geology of
find
the
it?
Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachians are among the oldest mountains on Earth, born of powerful upheavals within the terrestrial crust and sculpted by the ceaseless action of water upon the surface. Like how, things are normally created. The two types of rock that characterize the present Appalachian range tells much of the story of the mountain's long existence. So there's like crystalline rock, which was made between about 1.1 billion and 541 million years ago.
Yeah, those are some old mountains.
Yeah, really old though. So
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about that because the ones supposedly in the North Shore by Duluth, Minnesota, so like up on that by Lake Superior, that called the North Shore,
Yeah.
up there. But there was a mountain range, not really they're not mountains anymore, but they were mountains at one point, but they're very old too.
Just
But
get
they've
worn
just-
down.
Yeah, they're just completely worn down. It's like just sort of like bluffs or hills now.
That's amazing that you can wear down a mountain like that.
I mean, 1.1 billion.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long time. Yeah. I did look up some of the other cryptids supposedly in Appalachia. Appalachia. So some of them include the Goat Man, which is like a centaur kind of a thing.
Ew. Okay. He's like Deer Man, Goat
Yeah,
Man.
but with a goat. Yeah, Deer Man and Goat Man coming to a theater near you.
Goat Man would be like the sidekick.
Yeah, he's a little bit shorter.
Mhm.
And they have the Grass Man, which I think is kind of like Bigfoot. I think kind of something like that. And there's the Tennessee Wild Man, Sheep Squatch, so like Sasquatch but sheep.
Sheep Squatch?
Sheep Squatch. Yep. And then the Flatwoods Monster, which we talked
We
about a
talked
while
about
ago.
that.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was kind of a cool
I
story.
listened to that episode. That was a cool story.
That was cool. Yeah. Then there's Devil Monkeys, Alien Big Cats.
Devil Monkey? I
Yeah.
think my grandma called me that once as a child. So
You should go live there. Like improve. And then the last one in this list, there's the Wood Booger.
I see those in Mr. Kendra's nose every single day.
So gross.
It's so gross. Anyways, people, if you want to hear more about the Flatwood Monster, which is from which is on the list of the Appalachian mountain monsters, we did that in episode 4, so a long, long
man.
time ago.
That
We
was a
also
long
had
time
the
ago.
hodag in it, which is a cryptid monster from Wisconsin.
That one was
Pretty
funny.
cool. I was
I
at a
like that one.
restaurant. I was at a restaurant in Wisconsin, and they had a drink called the hodag, which was like a margarita. Yeah, it was about
Aw.
a margarita, and one of my friends got it, and the waitress was like, "What's with the hodag? I don't know anything about it." So, people, because our podcast covered the hodag, I got to tell her all about it.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me that. Oh, that's cool.
I was telling everyone now.
Yeah.
Again,
When was
people,
that? Like recently?
that was like 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Anyway, people, episode 4, if you want to hear more about the Flatwood Monster and the hodag.
Yeah, that was a good episode. I like that one.
That was a fun episode too, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ones. I'm like afraid to Google ones that are the Midwest though, because I get even more creeped out.
Oh. No.
Let's see, there's some more. I think it's like almost like every cryptid is like technically found in Appalachia. It's like Mothman, Bell Witch.
Yeah. Ooh, Bell Witch, what's that? Wait, don't tell me. I don't like witches.
Brown Mountain Lights, the Moon-Eyed People.
That's weird. Okay.
Yeah. So there's quite a few there. Where are the crystal skulls from?
Well, they're from Europe and South America, so.
Oh, okay. So a couple different.
Yep. They're manufactured in Europe and then supposedly found in South. See, this is why I shouldn't have said anything. Yeah.
That's lame.
It is lame. If you're ready, strap in,
Dang it.
people, because it's a whole big bucket of lame. It's not like Indiana Jones and the
No.
Crystal Skull at all.
Dang it, that's what I was hoping for.
It's not, people. It's super lame, and one skull's name is Max. And here we go.
Sorry. It's not even like a cool, like not that Max isn't cool, but it's just like not what you're expecting for like a crystal skull. You're
An
like
ancient crystal skull. That's you're like, oh, it's like
Max.
aliens, and it's like unlock stuff to civilization, and it's like an
Yeah.
antiquity, and its name is Max.
Go Max. I love it.
Oh, Max. Not even Maximilian, Max.
Okay.
Bunch of lame sauce, dumb dressing.
Don't trust me. Oh no.
Here we go. All right, crystal skulls. What do you know about like crystal skulls?
Other than Indiana Jones, one of them, nothing. That's it.
I think that's like what everybody knows about crystal skulls.
Probably, yeah. It's the most representation they've probably ever gotten in
Is Indiana
media.
Jones.
Yeah.
And Dan Aykroyd, the guy from Ghostbusters, owns a vodka company called Crystal Skull Vodka, and they come in like glass skulls. They're not crystal though; it's just like glass.
Can you imagine how expensive that would be to get?
If it was crystal,
yeah,
thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
or probably hundreds. I don't know. But anyway, I was really excited to research the crystal skulls because I thought that they were real, and crystal skulls are kind of lame. But you should still continue listening to the rest of this episode. They're kind of lame in a cool way. So
you're selling it great.
What?
You're selling it.
Thank you. Yeah, they're kind of lame, but they're still a weird piece of history, like art history sort of thing. So they're kind of lame. So these skulls, they like claim to be pre-Columbian Mesoamerican artifacts by their finders, but however, these claims have been refuted for all of the specimens made available for scientific studies. So all of the skulls that scientists have um gone over with like not magnifying glasses, but the
I could
what's
have. Like,
yeah, but what's the other one that zooms in?
zooms in a microscope.
Yeah, that one. All of those ones are like they're fake. They're not as old as they claim that they're supposed to be.
Okay.
Actually, the techniques that all of these skulls the techniques that have been used to carve these skulls, they're
Mhm.
all been manufactured in the mid 19th century or later, and
Oh, wow.
they're almost always made in Europe. So they're made like
Oh.
in Europe during a time when interest in ancient culture was like trending. Like it was trendy to be
Oh.
into sort of like Mesoamerican, like South American, Mexico like culture.
Yeah. Wasn't it a thing too that like the wealthy, I don't know if it was this time period exactly, but like the Egypt and everything like Egypt is blowing up like mummies. People would
Hmm.
buy mummies and open them up in their living
And they're
rooms.
fake.
That's so creepy though, the whole thought of that.
Yeah, so
Like,
like the
oh,
majority of like the crystal skull history is just like people in like like a little German village making crystal skulls to sell to
oh,
like rich people to like swindle them and be like, "Oh, they're from it's from Mexico. I found it in a Mayan pyramid. It was used by it's used to be telepathic to cure people or curse people, but
oh.
they're just like made by someone named Hans in Germany."
Okay.
So yeah,
Oh,
there's in Germany, if you want to like look it up, there's this little workshop town called Idar Oberstein, and they're like they're like renowned for crafting objects made from imported Brazilian quartz in the 1800s. So I think they still make crystal skulls today,
oh,
or
do
like
they really?
sculptures made out of crystal. Yeah, you should look them up. They're pretty cool. But despite some claims presented in many forms of popular literature, the legends of crystal skulls with mystical powers do not figure in genuine Mesoamerican or other Native American mythologies and spiritual accounts. So, not as this is important. Not a single skull in a museum comes from a documented excavation. So, like not a legit archaeological dig.
Yeah.
So basically, all these crystal skulls, they don't line up with what the Mayans or the Aztecs thought made representation of skulls to look like. So their idea, the Mayans' idea of like a skull and stuff like that, not stuff like that, whatever.
We get it. Yeah.
Yeah, their idea doesn't, their art doesn't match up with the crystal skulls
Isn't it
representation.
like
So
they're more elongated, like the
that's just in
or
Indiana
no?
Jones,
Oh, okay.
and
Right,
it's
right.
in Egyptian mythology, or not mythology,
Y-
but the in Egyptian pharaoh had
yeah, yeah.
but that's completely different than what we're
Okay.
talking about.
Never
But
mind.
yeah, so crystal skulls are kind of lame sauce. All the legit like National Geographic, the Smithsonian, the History Channel, like all the major history sites, stuff like that.
Hmm.
I went on, all had just horrible headlines for Crystal Skull.
No.
For Crystal Skull articles. So this one was from a National Geographic article. This was literally the first sentence. Crystal skulls are not uncommon or terribly mysterious.
I mean, I do appreciate that they're not clickbaiting you, like saying some casual
Yeah,
thing
but
like real crystal skulls uncovered.
but
I'm
I
glad
mean
it's not.
that was the first sentence in this
Yeah.
huge article. They're just like, they're not uncommon and they're not mysterious. They're lame. And then another one, this is a quote. A 2008 study led by the Smithsonian Institute found that likely all the 13 life-size quartz-size crystal skulls are likely fakes.
So
So
was there just 13 made? Or
there's many, but
oh,
there's
okay.
13 life-sized ones that
Oh,
are that were the most legit, or like the supposedly the most legitimized stories backing up, and they're not. They're fakes, but I mean they're interesting fakes, but like
hmm.
they're not they don't come from Atlantis like people thought, or from aliens, or
Yeah.
yes. Also, another thing, this is from the historychannel.com. Just a quote from them. Recently, scientists from the British Museum in London and the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., conducted analyses of crystal skulls using electron microscopes. See, that's what I meant instead of magnifying glass.
It's a little bit more like exact.
Yeah, electron microscopes, people. So, anyway, after finding markings that could only have been made by modern day carving implements rather than the stone, bone, and wooden tools that would have been used in pre Columbian times, they concluded that the skulls were likely fakes. The scientists believe they were probably manufactured in the late 1800s in response to a surge of interest in the ancient world and its artifacts. So,
I mean,
everyone's a hater.
yeah. I mean, I wonder if it was like if there was like some sort of version that they made way back when, but then they're like, but it makes sense too. It's just like a kitschy thing, like oh, buy this
Yeah,
alien artifact.
it's
It's
so yeah, it's more in like this the background, like the backstory to how all these fakes are found or whatever get or is more interesting than the actual fake like
oh,
itself.
okay.
So this is a I'm gonna tell you about the most famous crystal skull.
Okay.
It's the Mitchell Hedges skull, or it was also called the Skull of Doom.
Is this
So
like the giant diamonds that cause people to get in car crashes and stuff? Like the
what?
cursed, like the Hope Diamond, you know, like the one that's
No, I
like
don't know about that.
really? Oh, that's a
No.
future podcast. Let me write
All
that.
right, write that down right now. So here we go. Our story is going to start in the jungles of Lambantun, an ancient Mayan city deep within the Yucatan jungle in modern day Belize. And this is, again, perhaps the most famous crystal skull in the world today. It is the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull, named after British explorer and adventurer F.A. Mitchell Hedges. The most distinguishable characteristic of this skull is it's really clear, like it's crystal clear. Crystal, right? But I mean,
Yeah, good job.
you, thank you. It's so that was such a lame joke. And it has a the skull has like a detachable jaw, and
Oh,
it's
see.
carved from the same exact piece of quartz as the rest of the skull. So
Oh, that's
that's
cool.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But Mitchell Hedges claimed to have found the skull himself, but his adopted daughter Anna later said she found it under a fallen altar or inside a pyramid at the Maya site of Labantun. Yeah, so the whole thing is sketchy, okay?
Yeah,
So
sounds like it.
Frederick Mitchell Hedges, who was known to embellish his adventures, like really would like embellish them. He wrote books about this stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I mean they were like tall tales more.
Mm.
So he wrote of the skull in his 1954 memoir, Danger My Ally. Like that's the title. That's the dumbest Danger My Ally and friend. We'd have Thanksgivings together. Anyway, he claimed it was a relic of the Mayans. He dubbed it the Skull of Doom, and that several people have clinically laughed. Wait, cynically. I'm sorry, I can't read.
Clinically.
Clinically, several people who have cynically laughed at it have died. Others have been stricken and become seriously ill. Finally, he also added in there, how it came into my possession, I have reason for not revealing.
But didn't you say like you found it?
I mean, yeah, like you can't get a.
Okay.
He also, when he dies later, his adopted daughter says that she found it. He didn't find it. That
Yeah,
she found it.
this. Okay.
So this whole thing is sketchy. But like I
Mhm.
said, the story is more interesting than the actual skull. This is a quote from his memoir, Danger My Ally, it is at least 3,600 years old, and according to legend, it was used by the high priest of the Maya when he was performing esoteric rites. It is said that when he willed death with the help of the skull, death invariably followed. End quote. Yeah, so there's also accounts that he edited newer editions of his book. Like he edited the skull out completely. Like
Oh,
it's
really?
the skull is omitted from newer editions of his book. Yeah.
Okay.
So after his death, Anna Mitchell Hedges, his adopted daughter,
Mhm.
spent decades spreading the skull's mythos globally on international tours and through appearances on television. She reported that the Mayans told her that the skull was used to will death.
So are we gonna get like cursed by laughing at, like, and doubting his power?
No, it does not
Okay.
think it has any power. No. I mean,
Okay.
she just kinda after she just, like, traveled the globe and went to, like, Walmart and, like, the skull was the Walmart grader, and you're like, "Hey, look at the skull, give me $5 for a picture and an autograph."
Okay.
Okay, and, after this skull, the Mitchell Hedges skull was, like, the one that became the most famous, like, the most popular in the news, like, it was trending during the time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so after that skull became worldwide news, other skulls, magical crystal skulls from private collections started coming out of the woodwork
Okay.
with exotic sounding names such as Shana Ra and Amar, the name of a Tibetan crystal skull, and another one was simply called Max, which we'll talk about Max, but we're going to talk about Shana Ra first.
I love Max. That's great. That's what
So
I want my school to be named.
Max,
Max. Max.
I want mine to be named Toby.
Toby?
Mhm.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So on this website, crystalskulls.com, yes, that is a real website, Shana Ra is verified as being truly ancient. So the crystal skull Shana Ra, named for a shaman guide, is made of clear quartz. It has the unusual distinction of having been discovered in an actual archaeological dig in Mexico, providing further credibility to its status as a truly ancient crystal skull. But again, crystalskulls.com is not the Smithsonian Institute.com or so take this as you will.
Oh, look at there's a link right at the top. Crystal skulls for sale.
Yep,
You
you
can
can
you can
oh
buy
Katrina, at all of these articles on crystalskulls.com, you
Mhm.
can at the bottom of the articles they just like, "Hey, you should buy this one."
Oh,
So like
man.
all of the articles on this website are just like a big huge buy this you can get this set of 12 for 9 easy payments of 89.99. But so Shana Ra, who we're talking about, was located using psychic archaeology. Do you know what that means, Katrina?
Is that like when someone's like, "Oh, I believe this, so this person's telling me to dig here."
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
just means that eh, that the location of the find was pinpointed by a psychic.
Okay. Fair
Yep.
enough.
Uh-huh. So the psychic was like, I think Shauna Ra's over here screaming that he's trapped in a box. Okay, so yeah, so Shauna Ra basically he just goes on talk shows. He's like on the morning news all the time
The skull is on.
with the guy that,
Okay.
owns him
I just picture him sitting in the guest chair. You're
on a
just talking
pillow.
just
Yeah.
on a pillow. You're just answering questions, just like, so, what is your day to day life like? It just sits there. Fascinating. It's like
Okay.
okay.
All right. Now we're going to get back to the next skull, which is more interesting to me, a skull named Max. So this a woman from Texas named Joanne Parks, she talks to the crystal skull and sometimes she says it talks back.
That's creepy.
So Max is in we haven't even gotten to it yet. It
Oh,
gets creepier.
okay.
So Max is an ancient crystal skull. You can also experience it for yourself, because Joanne Parks travels the country, especially the South, and not just Texas. She travels around all over the place,
Okay.
and she allows personal one-on-one time with the ancient crystal skull named Max. Max has been known to help people, so he's like an emotional support skull or therapy skull, sort of thing like that.
So did she like name the skull, or did someone tell her that this name?
It's a
Okay.
story. We'll get into it.
Okay.
This is a quote from her. This is a quote from Parks. The British Museum authenticated Max with a no comment because they couldn't figure out how he was created, Parks said. They know he was very old because of what he's made up of. He's made up of 5 growth patterns and 2 matrices. Matrices. So I don't know what
So
that means. I'm not a rock person,
yeah,
but
so it's just like how like the rock formated, like formed,
yeah.
and then okay.
All right. This quote is from a local newspaper. Max is an authentic crystal skull, a wonder of the world, estimated to be thousands of years old and considered by many to be one of the rarest artifacts ever found on this planet. Max was discovered in Guatemala and was used by Mayan priests for healing rituals and prayers. Lama Norbu, an American trained to be a powerful healer of the Tibetan sect of Red Hat Lamas, studied in the tiny Asian nation of Sikkim with his own teacher Lama Norbu Lampas and in Guatemala with Mayan priests, where he came into the presence of Max. Norbu was given this precious skull when he left the Mayans to continue on his path as a healer. And his travels took him to Houston, Texas, where he started a healing foundation. The crystal skull sat on his altar as a healing and spiritual tool. So then, Parks and her husband Carl, they were introduced to the Tibetan healer named Norbu. His name's Norbu, remember, in 1973 when their 12-year-old daughter Diana was dying of bone cancer.
Ooh.
And their daughter sort of like interacted with the skull, and she did die 3 years later, but
Aw.
they said that she was okay, like better. That's what Parks claimed, that she was better,
Okay.
but she did die 3 years later, sadly.
Oh.
But after her daughter died, Parks ended up working for Chin for the next 4.5 years. And during this time, Parks said she watched monks talk to the skull and use it in healing practices. And she learned Max had been discovered. That Max is the skull, remember, people, the
Yeah.
skull, in 1924 in a tomb under a Mayan temple in Guatemala. So in the 1970s, a shaman in Mexico supposedly gave it to Chin as a gift. And before he died in 1977, Chin gave Parks the crystal skull, and according to her, said, "Take this, and someday you will know what it is for."
I mean, it's to heal people, right? Like that's what
It's an
it should
emotional
be.
support skull. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
So Parks said she took it home and then she just shoved it in a box and put it in her closet for 10 years.
Okay, you talk to the school to help heal your daughter, and you just shove it in the back of your closet,
I
like.
like it like this Tibetan monk gave it and he was like, You'll know what to do with it." And she's like, "Okay." I shove it in my closet
Just
for
like
10
gonna hide
years.
it from everywhere.
Okay,
Okay.
this is when it starts getting a little bit supernaturally, okay?
Okay.
So, this is from Parks. "It appeared to me in dreams," she said. "Can you imagine going in your closet and talking to a rock for 10 years? So I pushed it a little further back in the closet, put some pillows on it, and said, 'I don't want anything to do with you.' But the dreams kept coming."
You're
Parks said
calling.
I know. Okay, Park said she was watching TV in June in 1987 when she saw a TV show about Fr. Nick Nocerino of California, a man who, according to Parks, is considered the world's foremost expert on ancient crystal skulls. He's not, but I mean,
Okay.
the show prompted her to go to the Houston Museum where she learned of several other skulls that are in the museums in France and England. The Houston Museum said they are so unusual that little is known about them and they wanted to put Max on display, Parks said. I said, "No, you don't know what it is and I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to put it on display." So she brought it back home and she put it back in her box. She said, "I patted Skull, that is what I called him, on the head, and telepathically through my mind I heard him say, 'My name is not Skull, my name is Max.'"
So wouldn't this monk be able to tell her that this or his or her name before she shoved it in a box in her closet for
Was
10
Max?
years?
You're like, "This is Max."
Like, this
I
is
mean,
Max. Like,
I don't know. But this is a quote from her. To me, Max is the shape of a skull because it's the universal symbol of man. Human skulls are keepers of knowledge, a reflection of man and the extension of one's own self. So they travel the country, so you can probably go on her website and see where Max is gonna be next.
So, is Max the crystal that it was carved out of, or is it supposed to be the skull? Because, like, what is this supposed to be, Max?
I don't know, that's a great Max is the crystal skull.
All right, I won't ask questions.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. Okay, so Shana Ra and Max and the Mitchell Hedges skull are all believed to be part of the prophecy of the 13 crystal skulls. So, according to the ancient prophecy, when the 13 crystal skulls are pulled together, all the wisdom they contain will be released and a new era will begin. These skulls really exist, and according to legend, they were inherited by the Mayas from the Atlanteans. Yes, Atlanteans. So before their world disappeared, the Mayans separated them and distributed them all over the planet, hoping that one day they will all be put together again. There are also other versions that attribute its construction and power to the Maya themselves.
Is that just the plot of Indiana Jones?
No, kinda, I think it is. Or did Indiana Jones use that?
That could have been, yeah. It was like whenever this quote was first mentioned, yeah.
Mhm. But, like, these crystal skulls are all sorts like, different sizes. The smallest is, like, this as big as, like, a little necklace amulet,
Oh, okay.
and then the largest is bigger than a bowling ball. Well, a lot like, the large one, if you see the picture of Max and his keeper, he's pretty big.
Yeah, he's like a bowling ball
He's like a
size.
bowling ball sized.
Yeah.
Mhm. But again, there is no at the end of the day, there is no real credible evidence that these things were used by the Mayans and are ancient like they said. The only real evidence that they have is that they were crafted in Germany for presents and little tokens that people can buy.
So the original 13, how would they be able to even tell which original 13 there
They
would be?
that's a great they can't
Like,
because there's
yeah,
so many of them. So
interesting.
so there's a British Museum skull, there's a Paris skull, there's a Smithsonian skull, and there's many other skulls in private collections today.
Huh. So are any of them like actual, like, so, you know, like human skulls are hollow? You know,
hmm
are these all just solid crystal, or are they like hollow like a human skull, or any of them like actual skull? You know, like the hollow
They're
bone
they're
structure,
no, they're
or
all
oh, okay,
solid like a rock. There
okay.
is the Paris skull. So we could get into this, but it would take too long. But there's you can look him up yourself. Eugene Boban. Boban is Boban. He was like a swindler of the skulls. So he moved to Mexico. He stayed in Mexico for like 10 years, moved back to Europe and was sort of like a swindler, like a snake oil salesman. He sold people
Mm,
genuine, quotation quotes around this genuine crystal skulls to rich people. So the
uh,
one of them is in the Paris Museum called the Paris Skull, and it has a hole drilled vertically through its center,
oh, like a necklace, kind of a pendant.
like just like straight down. Yeah, but
Oh,
I mean, all the other ones are all solid.
you know, like I always want to believe that there's something like supernatural. You know, that's
hmm
kind of how my brain likes to
I
think.
know that's what I
But
wanted to, and then I got into the crystal skulls, and it's all a bunch of lame.
yeah, it's just like if there. See, I believe a lot more if it had like the actual structure of bone, like a normal human skull. You know, like the hollow, like very delicate. Like that to me would be much more convincing than solid crystal. I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all wanted to think that these crystal skulls are like a cool, like alien, mystical, something like that, rather than a skull named Max that tours the country and goes to malls and you can see him in a Barnes and Noble or something like that.
That'd be weird.
I mean, but that's what it is. It's very lame and it's sad.
So were these? Do you know if any of these like were actually supposed to be like alien skulls, or were they just like supposed to be like carved and then used as like somehow absorbed all this knowledge and never were like living things, but like
Oh, to
just
the
used for
alien
healing?
stuff?
Yeah, like were they ever supposed to be like actual alien skulls, or are they just like
So, I it was like the this is like the crackpot side of this all. It's like that
Atlantis.
they were like in Atlantis and they're from like aliens. And
Okay.
they somehow have all this this knowledge that the Atlanteans have within them, and then when they will all 13 come together, then they will release all the knowledge and stuff like that.
Okay. My question is now too is like, why have you not brought all 13 together? Unless that's gonna bring out mass chaos because all of a sudden
Katrina, I'm sure that they did and nothing happened.
nothing happened.
It was just like a weird, like probably a fight of the egos. Probably Shauna, Ra, and Max were probably fighting. I don't know.
You're just sitting in a circle and just people that brought them there just sitting there like waiting for something crazy to happen. Nothing happens. Like, cool, break. Let's go.
Or she's like,
Let's go get
yeah.
coffee.
Yeah. No, it's so lame that Mr. Kendra, who loves ancient aliens, I
Yeah.
asked him when I was doing the research for this, I asked him, I was like, "Do they have like a Crystal Skull episode of ancient aliens? Like they should." He's like, "Yeah, it was really lame though." He's like, "It wasn't good."
Oh no.
So I didn't even watch it.
Oh no.
So at the end of the day, very cool crafted art piece.
Mhm. Yeah. Should we wrap it up?
Oh
Think.
yeah.
Okay. All right, Wanderers. Thank you so much for listening to another Foolish Wanderers podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any comments, anything to add to this conversation about either the knot deer, have you seen a knot deer? Have you come across a knot deer or anything along those lines? We'd love to hear about it. Or if you have anything to add to the crystal skull phenomenon, if you have any knowledge or have any theories about them, love to hear from you. Just email us at fwplisteners@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you next week with a brand new episode.
Bye!